In what ways does your neurodiverse condition interact with other aspects of your identity? Examples include race, gender, culture, sexuality, or other physical or mental disabilities.
Yeah, so I have epilepsy, and that I was diagnosed when I was in about fourth grade. So that growing up within academic settings was really challenging for me. Not only that, it created a lot of kind of identity issues at a younger age of trying to figure out who I was and why I wasn't necessarily learning like my other classmates, kind of dealing with the issues of other classmates and teachers not understanding. And um, so it kind of is a crossover of my it's more of a mental and physical disability for me. But it crosses over into race, gender, culture, and sexuality for me as well. As given my lived experience, I was actually very privileged of being able to have access to resources and treatment for it. Even though it did bring up a lot of challenges for me, I was always able to get really good treatment for any of my healthcare issues.
In like academic settings, did you find that people found it easier to understand your epilepsy or some of your like neurodiversity, would you say?
No. I've always, I mean, with college, yes, but for the longest time, I actually hid that about me. I didn't tell people why I would be missing school or why I would be failing a class. So I always kind of had this imposter syndrome of coming up with excuses or trying to fit in a certain aspect. But a lot of the times I did not want to tell anybody what was really going on because I was embarrassed. And I also, within academia, mainly within high school and middle school, a lot of my teachers didn't understand it. And I have struggled with getting accommodations and understanding that my learning style is not neurotypical. So figuring that out in a sense has been challenging, but it's gotten better throughout the years.
Question: what would an ideal school or work environment look like for you as a neurodivergent person?
For me, I have days where I can get really hyper focused and find that online formats will be great, especially with testing. I feel less
Oh yeah.
anxiety, I feel more at ease, and not even like as nervous to talk to people over Zoom. Less pressure essentially with being at home and being very comfortable. And then the asynchronous too, like the lectures, some of the
Oh yeah.
teachers will have the closed captions and you can go back and like speed it up or pause it. And then for me, I'm a very visual learner, so seeing word for word of what they're talking about, like I can connect the dots on every single topic when I visually see that. So that's been very helpful, and that's been actually kind of tricky from having the asynchronous format and then going in person. And then you're like, okay, I'm trying to like catch up what they're saying in person in the actual lecture. So I would say the hybrid work setting has been really great for some of the weeks that I am not as focused as much or having some health issues arising or just not feeling that great. I can take it really easy, not having to worry about my commute or kind of everything that's going on around me, being in the comfort of my own home and getting my work done. But then also having the ability of being able to get out and being around people that are working. And so I feel part of like whether like part of my school or part of my work in the real world, essentially, non-remote. So I really like the hybrid settings.
Do you think that like being having health as one of your interests has been to your benefit, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually like the 10% that didn't respond to medications with epilepsy or so my epilepsy has caused a lot of my learning disabilities and my ADHD. So there's a lot of secondary diagnostics there. So I didn't respond to medication well, and we tried everything. luckily now I'm on really like medication that works for me. But throughout the years, I like was like, I have to take that, like I gotta figure something out. This is exhausting. So I continued to like work on my health, focus on my diet, and I really found a love for it because I understood like the importance of health. Like if you can't, if you're not essentially your healthiest, it really affects all aspects of your life. Like it's really difficult to go to school, like get out of bed, or just do anything essentially. It makes it really, really difficult. So I found that health is really important and I want to try and take care of myself as much as I can.
And kind of related to your experience with medication, I feel like that's something that a lot of neurodivergent people have to deal with,
Mhm.
especially since there are just like so many options and there's not really a good way to scientifically determine like whether something will work or not yet. Do you
Yeah,
have any advice for people who might still be in the midst of that or trying to figure out what works, or they're like trying a lot of medications and it isn't working?
I guess at the end of the day, you know your body the best. And if you aren't comfortable or you're not feeling well, even and if a doctor's pushing to like give something a try, keep going with it. But like there's been medications that my doctor he was swearing by. He was like, this is gonna work, this is gonna be it. And I was young, I was like in middle school, and I went into the room and I talked to my mom. I was like, Mom, I'm seeing hallucinations. Like, this isn't normal. And she's like, okay, we're done. We're like getting you off this. So at the end of the day, like, you know your body, you know what's going to work best. And a lot of the times you're going to have to be firm with the doctors if, because not everybody understands what you're going through at the time. And so it sucks that we do sometimes have to really fight for what we know is the truth, but don't give up and not be, I don't like saying having to be patient, but you know your body the best and you'll find somebody that understands you.
So like being neurodivergent has kind of helped you towards your health journey. Would you say that it's changed like your relationship to your body or your confidence in kind of like knowing yourself, compared to people who may not have had the same experiences?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In the past, like I said, it was a lot of me holding back on who I was, but as much as it's been challenging, I've learned to notice that I have a lot of strengths, and it was more of others and society how they put disability and neurodiversity into like I definitely thought of it as all of these things I wasn't capable of. But now that I've gotten older and learned more about myself, I have so many different abilities, and I'm very grateful for my experiences and being able to reflect on my health and
Disclosing.
everything that's
What is
been.
one accommodation that you commonly request, and how does it facilitate your success?
I like a quiet room. Sometimes the DRS room can be even a little bit like too loud for me if somebody's like tapping a pencil. So um, extra time and a quiet room has been amazing for me. Having extra like recordings of the slides, but we're mainly asynchronous now, has also been really, really helpful. Um, so essentially that's been the main accommodations I've asked for. But the biggest journey, the biggest challenge was kind of understanding how I can retain information and learning and what I can do to, yeah, understand my learning style was actually the biggest challenge for me online. So my first quarter in person was actually in the fall. But then there was like situations that would come up where my test would be at the end of lecture and then I would feel weird and awkward like getting up and leaving the middle of class because I'm going to take a test separately, or my teacher forgot that I had testing accommodations and would hand me a test and then I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have to like bring this up in the middle of the class and just like over analyzing these situations. So that was adjustment too. But then that was another thing I needed to learn was like, these are my accommodations and I shouldn't be nervous to speak up about them or embarrassed. And DRS was just like, that's your right. If you have any issues, let us know. We'll talk to the teacher, we'll take care of it. And I think, I mean, DRS in general, there's so many different students there as well as teachers and just professionals that are really passionate about helping others and understand what's going on and our rights. Um, and at the end of the day, like they're there to help you. Um, so they've been really accommodating for
And
me. And
what is one common feature of the world, like the built environment, websites, classrooms, etc., that is inaccessible to you that non-disabled people often don't think twice about?
see, that's hard to say because I've adjusted throughout the years, and I've gotten really used to just adjusting to everything that my brain doesn't like around me. But if I could definitely slow things down and visually see everything, that'd be amazing. Um, Even with hearing people talk, sometimes I don't understand questions very well. So if I could have every question written out in life
Yeah.
in front of me, that'd be amazing. So definitely that, more visual learning concepts, um, especially within
I don't
school.
mind like talking a little bit about sort of like your career path or sort of like what you plan to do after graduation.
So I actually hated school when I was younger. I didn't think I was going to be able to go to college because of my learning disabilities. And I was just like, I hate school. Like I just had a really bad idea and of what academics were because I didn't receive accommodations, or just the learning disabilities in general were, I just, yeah. So that being said, I then around after I moved to Seattle, I was like 19 after I graduated. I built up the confidence of just enrolling part-time and taking classes that I enjoyed, like arts, and seeing where it went, to slowly build up confidence, which turned into me hyper focusing on a class that I really liked, which then turned on to me then going into realizing, oh, I love learning. I can do this. And so I was slowly like building up my confidence, got into UW, and after UW, like everything changed for me, of the curriculum, things that I love, the support. It was just like a new world opened up of me within academics, and it organically shifted and helped me reframe the belief of like, oh, I'm not intelligent. So that's really helped me be like, oh, actually, Lizzie, you're really smart, and you've got on like you've had some challenges, but you've learned to adjust through that. And so now I'm at a place where I'm actually applying to graduate school, and I'm going into getting my MPH, so my master's in public health. And I want to do research, mainly implementation research, um, and focus on also disabilities, because there's a lot of research out there in our like world mainstream. But for example, it's like there's not a lot focused on disabilities or those who live with those challenges. And so bringing that more into a conversation, having that normalized in public health is my ultimate goal.
Oh my God, congratulations. I'm so happy. And I'm actually a public health major too. And I
So
think I
cool.
totally echo those sentiments because it's like the whole point of public health is to promote people's wellness. And it's like we don't
Mhm.
have a single class on disability in the major. So
Yeah, yeah. I've had to email the teachers within the LSJ majors and be like, here's my story. This is what I'm doing in my future. Please let me into your class. And luckily, I'm actually in one now with it's Joanne Wallach, I think her name is. But that's definitely a class I should suggest any of her classes, because you are learning so much about disabilities. But I think that they definitely need to be more integrated into the school of public health. I know so I'm in the food systems major, and they're offering interdisciplinary classes. So they've pulled some of the LSJ classes, which has been nice, but there's still not offered enough. And even if they're there, I feel like they're not like, I had to search, like I had to dig for them. So
yeah.
yeah,
And it's like that's a fourth of the US population. Like people seem to think that disabled people are such a small minority, but that's like every single day you probably interact with a disabled
yeah,
person.
absolutely.
So it's like that's so important. And I'm so happy to like hear that you got to that point.
Thank
Because I
you.
feel like a lot of neurodiverse people are kind of pushed out, but I feel like a lot of neurodiverse people actually really love learning, just not the way that it's set up in the systems that we have.
Yeah, and then like when I was applying to grad school too, I was seeing on forums and stuff people talking about like how do they approach talking about their disability, or if they've had to take in a quarter off, if they needed health accommodations, and really hiding this part about them in their academic journey. It's like, speak up about it. Like, this is who you are, and this is also giving a voice for future academia. Like, this is a conversation we need to have. You should absolutely not like hide it. And I mean, that's a large ask of me to be like, hey, everybody talk about your disabilities or neurodiversity. I know like not everybody's comfortable about it, but I want to get to that point that we can have that conversation so we don't feel like we have to hide it. And that was something I was seeing on so many like forums of people being on their applications like, oh, I'm not going to get in because of this, this, and this. And like, I have to hide this about myself. I'm like, you're like, that's who you are, and that makes you a strong candidate because like you have different experiences, and especially if you're going into public health or you want to do research within like disability or something like that, you have a different perspective that other people may not have. So I always like advocate for people to talk about it.
Absolutely, yeah. And then one last question before we talk a little bit about the panel. If this concept resonates with you, what does neurodivergent joy look like to you?
Getting accommodations without a place of judgment. And like the teacher that made me really feel accommodated, heard, and seen, and that was really, really nice, because not only did that carry back to feelings of not getting those accommodations in middle school or in elementary school, that was just like, wow, this is really nice. So having, yeah, not hiding who I am essentially from society is neurodivergent joy.